Last night I showed you those shocking pictures of a Russian airstrike on a maternity and children's hospital in the southern city of Mariupol. 3 people, including a child, have now been confirmed dead from that attack. Here's the latest from Sky News UK.
There is no ceremony for those who've lost their lives in Mariupol. Just a long trench where they're placed next to those who've suffered the same fate, many of them civilians. 3 people, including a child, died in yesterday's attack on the city's maternity and children's hospital. 17 were injured. Anger is mounting with the growing civilian casualties, but it's set against Russian denial. The bombing here is fake news, says the Kremlin, that there were no women or children at the hospital, just radicals. These images, released by the Russian Defense Ministry, show soldiers advancing with air cover in an unidentified location. But this demonstrates why that advance is not as rapid as hoped. A Russian tank column under heavy bombardment north of Kiev.
Let's cross now to Kira Rudik, leader of Ukraine's Voice Party. She joins me live from Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Thanks for joining us. Kira, I want to get back to that situation in a moment, but first up, where you are in Kiev, what is the situation with bombarding? What is the situation with Russian troops surrounding the city? Is it besieged, or have things calmed down in the capital in recent days?
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me. So I'm at the center of the city at my home. The city is not besieged yet. However, the Russian forces are trying to circle it up, and there has been fights on the entrances and exits of the city because this is what they want to take. The shelling of the city continues, and I would say that tonight it was intensified, so we had to spend basically the whole night in the bomb shelter. Yesterday we spent most part of the day by trying to get out the refugees from the city of Irpin, this outskirts of Kiev that was severely bombarded. There have been fires there, so people are trying to get out. And tonight as well, some of the western cities were severely bombarded, and we don't know anything about casualties just yet. So it all in all brings us to the thing that Ukraine cannot protect itself from the sky. And this is why we keep asking for a protection from our partners.
Yeah, I'll come to that in a moment too. But when we see what's happened in Mariupol, people have talked about that bombing of the hospital as a war crime. But we know those tactics too of besieging a city, taking out sources of food and water supply. I understand from reports similar is happening in Kharkiv in the east of Ukraine, and essentially the same development is happening around Kiev. Is this the Russian tactic to actually just destroy the lives of the civilians and try and intimidate you into surrender?
Right. This is Russian tactics, and they are being very open about it. Step 1, to surround the city. Step 2, to bombard it with from the air. To create chaos and destroy the communications, destroy the water supplies, destroy the food supplies, and after that, starve people out and figure out if we will capitulate after that, if we will retreat. So what we see in Mariupol, which is horrible and it's just like not going through my mind, that in the center of Europe on the 21st century, these things could happen and the world could be just watching and saying, well, keep up. And this is something that we are expecting to happen in Kiev, and we are getting ready. We have enough food, enough water. I'm training with my resistance team with the Kalashnikovs, but honestly, you can stand up to Russian soldiers on the land and on the ground, and we are doing it very well as Ukrainians. However, there is nothing I can do myself to protect the ones whom I love from the missiles that are coming from the air. This is just horrifying.
So this is the key point. So far, NATO and effectively America have ruled out a no-fly zone because they say it could trigger a war between NATO directly and Russia. You obviously have not given up on that. That is the number one aim, the number one plea to the West is to enforce a no-fly zone, at least over key cities?
Over peace cities, over humanitarian convoys. And This is what we were asking for, like maybe not be calling it a no-fly zone, maybe not have the United States get into the direct interaction with Russian forces. But there has been idea of getting to Ukraine the jets that we could fight ourselves, and that has also been ruled out. So if the story is not that the whole world is just watching us being killed here, then we do need to get some support. If Ukraine fails, there's not good for anybody. There is already a humanitarian catastrophe in Europe. There are 2 million refugees that already have fled Ukraine. There are 2 nuclear stations, Chernobyl, as you probably know about, and another, the largest nuclear plant in Europe that has been bombarded and that has been attacked by Russians. And I can tell you, radiation doesn't choose who has which passport and is the country a member of NATO or not. And this is why we do need the support from the sky, because this is not pure Ukrainian problem. This is the all world's problem right now, what is happening.
You are so right, and the world can't hide from it. They're seeing it happen live on their television screens right now. They cannot plead ignorance. Your courage amazes us. You're sitting in the middle of Kiev, as you say, in the capital, with the Russians approaching. I understand that until recently you'd never owned a gun, used a gun, but now you're training with Kalashnikovs, as you say, and you carry a weapon daily now because you'll need it.
Correct. I have never carried a gun before, but it's day 16 of war, and since day 1, I have been training with it, and along with my resistance crew, we are training to protect ourselves, be a part of the resistance in Ukraine, and help our army in case if Russians will at some point get into the city of Kiev.